Hi, I'm Patty Hamaguchi. I'm a speech-language pathologist, and I'm also the creator of this app, Fun with Who, What, and Where. One of the great features of this app is that it's so flexible. You can move a child through a hierarchy of skills by increasing or decreasing the rate of the presentation, increasing or decreasing the number of choices, or increasing or decreasing the complexity of the tasks to be presented. This tutorial is for both the full version and the light version of the app. They work exactly the same, except the light version is typically a home version since it does not have a group setting. It only allows 2 users, and it has less content overall. First, I like to show you the users page. If you intend to keep data in customized settings, you'll want to set up a user for either an individual or a group. Setting up a user is easy. Simply type in the name. I'll do mine here. And then you tap this green button, Add Individual User, and you're all set. For groups, you need to name the group, tap Add New Group, and then decide who will be in it. I've already set up a group here, Monday 10 a.m., but I can add users. So you simply tap on the users who will be in that group, then tap on Add Members, and you're all set. You have the option to have all the users in the group play with the same settings, or you can keep their individual settings. Let's go ahead and set up my individual setting so you can find out more about the ways you can customize this app. I'm going into Settings, and now let's check out what all these buttons are for. The first one, Activities, shows you the 5 activities in the app. Each one of these has their own custom settings. Let's go through each activity one by one. Activities 1 through 4 follow a bit of a hierarchy, but activity 5, this one is a little different and can be used with any child, as you will see. But let's go through each activity. Activity 1. This is the easiest activity and focuses on distinguishing between who versus what. You can select the number of choices. 3 is our default, but let's just use 2 for now. There are 3 presentation rates for this activity: easy, intermediate, and advanced. For now, I'm going to show you the intermediate level for who. For what, let's choose 4 pictures and the easy rate so you can see that. We also have the option to have the items paired back to back as it relates to a single picture, or be shown completely random. Let's keep these paired up and I'll demonstrate activity 1 to you now. As you can see, when we have a what question at the easy level, the child sees an icon showing things along with the word what to alert him or her that they should be thinking about an object, not a person. If they tap on the wrong answer, there is no response. This is called Errorless Learning, and we did that by design. There is no feedback until the correct answer is selected. With the intermediate level, there is no icon, but the keywords are emphasized and the question is spoken slower than the normal speed, the advanced rate. The block. Who is on the stairs? We can tap here again if the child missed the question or needs to hear it again, but the auto advance will consider that an error. The stimulus picture at the top can be tapped on again and it will expand for you. Just tap on it one more time and it reduces back to the other sides. All right, now let's take a look at activity 2.
Perfect.
This activity allows the user to practice who, what, and where questions with occupation-specific content. It's a great way to integrate vocabulary along with receptive language practice. There are 4 question types, and like the other activities, I can decide which questions to focus on and how many choices to show. Today, let's do what doing questions and where questions. I can have occupations randomly pop up, or I can select them myself. Let's select the farmer, We can tap Done and then Play, and we're all set. Let's try it. What do farmers do on a tractor? They ride it. Where does a farmer work? On a farm. So you can see after all of the occupation questions that have been selected have been answered, there's a quick animation that shows the featured person from that occupation doing something related to it as a further way to reinforce the concepts. Since I only set it up to do the farmer, it's going to ask me if I want to do it again or not. So I will select no, and this will take us back to the settings. All right, now let's take a look at Activity 3. Activity 3 has two distinct levels. 3A shows a picture with just one person performing one action. It is the easier of the two levels, and there are a maximum of 4 choices. Activity 3B shows 2 people engaging in 2 different actions. There are between 5 and 8 choices. It is trickier, and the choices are by design as well more difficult. We can select the type of questions and the number of choices once again. So let's select Who questions for 3A, and we'll keep it at 3 choices, normal rate. And for 3B, let's select a What plus Object question with 8 choices, but we'll use the slower rate. We tap Done and then Play. All right. Who is building a house? The boy. What is the girl holding? And for Activity 3B, you're going to notice that the pictures are set up a little differently. You have to scroll through them left to right and then select the correct picture. Okay, so now let's go back to the settings and we'll select Activity 4. All right, Activity 4, just like Activity 3, is set up with a 4A and a 4B. This time the child has to listen to a few sentences and then answer questions about what was heard. There is no picture, so it requires more focus and processing and more accurately simulates real-world listening conditions. So with 4A, again, there will be one person and one action in the short story. We can again choose the type of question and the number of choices with a maximum of 4. But one very cool feature of Activity 4A is that you can select the type of syntax structure used in the prompt. You may want to start with simple sentences and then later move on to relative clauses with who or complex clauses with while. So even while the focus of this app is who, what, and where, we have a cool way to also work on receptive language syntax forms as well. Let's select the simple sentences normal rate. For 4B, just like with 3B, there are 5 to 8 possible choices, and they're much trickier than 4A. Let's tap on 4B, and we're going to select Where questions with a choice of 8, slow to medium presentation rate. We tap Done, and we're all set. One hot summer
All right,
let's pretend my child really doesn't like this story.
A little girl
We can tap Next Activity at the top to try another one.
Big brother
And just like Activity
Oliver
3, there is
were
an animation
outside
after all the questions are
their
answered
favorite
about
tree.
that story.
Oliver drank some cold lemonade. Hannah started to dance. Suddenly, she heard a noise above her on a branch. Where was the noise coming from? Above Hannah, on a branch.
Now let's look at Activity 5. This is one of the most fun features of this app. First, you want to select the photo to use. Here is one of my lovely daughter, Sarah. Let's use her. Next, we want to select the pronoun. The pronoun needs to be chosen because you might want to use someone other than the child who is playing. in order to incorporate pronoun use. So the narrator will ask either, "What are you doing?" or "What is he doing?" or "What is she doing?" It might be fun to put yourself in the animations as well, so the child can see you doing fun stuff like surfing or climbing a tree. So I'm going to pick Sarah here. For Sarah, fair white, so the animation skin tone is somewhat similar to hers. And then we can custom select the animations or randomly see what pops up. I'm going to select rides a horse on a farm, surfs on a wave, and jumps on a trampoline. I can select questions, but I can also just have one animation after another play without any questions at all. Maybe you like to use the animations to elicit expressive language or even as a reinforcer. Let's try it with some questions. All right, I'm going to tap done, then play.
What were you doing?
Let's assume the child said, "I was riding." So we mark it as correct.
Where were you riding a horse?
Here you have 3 choices for scoring. It could be that you're really focusing on the complete prepositional phrase for the response, "on the farm." If the child says, "on farm," perhaps I'd score it as close instead of correct. All right, now let's take a look back in the settings, and you'll see the Answer Choices tab. If we tap on that, it has 2 options. The first one is the default. After the child hears the question, the choices pop up automatically on the screen. The second option, Manually Show Choices, is one of my favorite features, and I'll tell you why. When a child automatically is presented with choices, it is a receptive task, right? All they have to do is point. But my long-term goal is for the child to not only process WH questions, but to verbally respond, or in some cases write or use an AAC device. But the end result is that the child generates the response rather than simply choosing one. After the child has responded, you can tap Show Choices, and it is essentially functioning as a check. So let's do activity 1 with the Show Choices feature on, so you can see how it works.
Who is up in the tree? The girl.
Okay, now let's take a look at the Auto Advance feature. I like this feature, and I would recommend using it for almost all circumstances. The program notices how a child is responding to each specific question type within an activity. So for example, if a child struggles with where questions, but is doing great with who questions within the 3A activity, the program will adjust the level of difficulty for each specific question type and setting within a single activity. So let's say you selected who questions in 4A at the slow rate, and the child answers all 3 correctly. An additional choice is added for the 4th presentation of that who question within the slow setting. If more than 3 questions are answered correctly, a 4th choice is added, and eventually the presentation rate is increased. But we'll start with 2 choices and work through the hierarchy until the child hears the prompts at a normal rate with a maximum number of choices. Likewise, if the child misses 2 who questions, let's say, in activity 3B, the difficulty levels drop down specifically for who questions by reducing the number of boxes or slowing down the presentation rate if needed. The other option is Manual Advance, and in that case, the program keeps whatever settings you have selected, no matter how many questions are responded to, correctly or not. Here we have the narration and story sounds. They can be turned off if the child is in a setting such as a doctor's office or library and the app needs to stay silent. In that situation, you would want to make sure the text is turned on so the prompts are written and read. Track progress and display score allows you to track progress with or without showing the scores to the child as you play. So now let's tap play, and we're going to end the session after the next question so you can take a peek at the session results page. It's the red button at the top of the page here. All right, now we have a summary of the questions that were attempted, which activities, and which questions were correct and which ones were missed. We can email the results, print them out, or we can play the missed items by tapping on the dark green Play Missed Items button. And that's all you need to know to get most out of the app called Fun with Who, What, and Where.